zakat period and at the end of your zakat period, which is what? One whole Hijri year, one Islamic calendar year. Alright? 12 months. So that's it. That's all we basically have to do from that. I know we went around, it took a long time, but it's conceptual. So, in other words, you have to have it in your mind, nice and straight, set properly, before you can actually comprehend it. Otherwise, if you went here and there and everywhere else, then you wouldn't be able to. So there it is there. Nice and simple and straightforward, no? So we'll go through it again, just so we let it sink into our minds a bit more. Alright? So, basically, it's an amount, it's a time, and it's also a who, which is the prescribed manner, and how. So it's a who and a how as well. Alright, so the minimum amount, we said the minimum threshold. Lower threshold, gold, 84.7 grams. I know you don't know this, I know everyone knows it, but it's good to go through it again, especially if it's still on the board. Okay, 84.7 grams. So when you go and look it up, how much is 84.7 grams, don't just look up the American value, because that's what the gold is valued in these days, American dollars. So it's 1,100 and something dollars an ounce. But it's not 1,100 Australian dollars an ounce, it's 1,100 and something American dollars an ounce. So you've got to work that. There's some calculators, if you go on the internet, you can actually work it out what is the Australian dollar price for 1 gram of gold. Complex, unfortunately, more than it needs to be, but that's the reality of the times we live in, and that's why the Prophet ﷺ at the end of times, the believer, will be like holding on to a hot coal. It's hard to practice the thing. Yeah? Okay? So you got to work that out. Then we said under the Shafi'iyya that it's better because zakat is what's the ruling of zakat in Islam? Alright? It's a rukn. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. Aqamu salata wa atu zakata. It's mentioned 20 times in Quran, at least. I didn't count them exactly, but around 20 times, between 10 and 20 times in the Quran, where Allah mentions Aqamu salat wa atu zakat, tied together. That salat and zakat are tied together. Right? Because they're the basic actions of the believer. One is with their body. Aqamu salat, not pray. Aqamu, they established prayer. They established righteousness. They established calling to good and enjoining good and forbidding evil. They established justice. They established, and then manito, cash. That's the other thing, people. What do we do with our wealth? What do we do with it? So those things are tied together. The main two main things. What we do with our bodies, and then what we do with our wealth. So it's mentioned together, all through the Quran. So for this factor, the Shafi'iyya said that if there's a difference, a discrepancy in the price between gold and silver, which we said is 592 grams, then, which is about 350 Australian dollars at the moment, roughly, then it's better, because it's a rukn, and because salat and zakat are together and it's a big deal, it's better to pay the zakat on $350. Yep. It's not much anyway, we worked it out. What's his name? Tom's isn't here to tell us how much it is, but it was like $8 or something, $10. It wasn't very much. So it's not a big deal. No? $2.50, $7.50 and 50 cents. About $9, $8.50.
So is that like gold or silver?
Well, if you've got this amount, then it's better to give it on the gold. Okay? But if you don't, this is what the Shafi'is say. The Shafi'is are the ones that say that. Whoever's in the Shafi'i madhab, pretty much you have to do that. Pretty much. Then, so you don't fall out of it, right? So you've got $1,000, you pay $25. It's not a big deal. Like you're buying that on lunch anyway. If you got $1,000, I don't know, if I've got $1,000, I'll be buying lunch worth $25 easily. I'll buy you guys lunch worth $25 as well, inshallah. So it's not this big amount of money that you have to pay like tax. It comes at the end of the year, 50%, 40%, 20% of the overall wealth that you earn, no matter what, no matter how. It's not overbearing like that. Right? It's only that little amount. So that's what the Shafi'is say. If you're a Shafi'i, you should follow it. If you're not, it's up to you. But it's better if you've got that amount. And it's what? Lasted one whole Islamic year, 12 months, then you pay 2.5%. So we talked about last time the dates. So if you started off, last week was 10 Muharram, wasn't it? Yeah, it was, eh? Last week was 10 Muharram, so the next time you count it is 9 Muharram next year. Alright? Pretty straightforward, Mahak. Yeah?
Alright, alhamdulillah.
الحمد لله رب العالمين حمدا يوافي النعمة ويكافئ مزيده والصلاة والسلام على خير الأنام وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. إننا وإنا التعلم والتعليم والتذكر والتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والدعاء إلى الهدى والضلالة على الخير والحث والتمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسول الله ابتغاء مرضات الله وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى. We praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, praise is due to a beneficent bestower of bounties and favours and a granter of sustenance. We ask our Lord Most High to send copious and unlimited and eternal blessings and salutations upon our beloved Prophet Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So we continue again with the book of Imam Haddad, Risala Mu'awana, Qala al-Malif rahimahullah radiallahu anhu wa ankum. So we're just focusing on that issue, right? We're not going through the first line of what Imam Haddad said, وَعَلَيْكَ إِنْ كَانَ لَكَ مَالٌ تَجِبُ فِيهِ الزَّكَاةِ بِإِخْرَاجِ زَكَاتُهُ طيبة بها نفسك قاصدا بها وجه الله. Okay, so what he's saying in there, you want to just quickly read first sentence.
You must separate zakat from your wealth and then distribute it.
No, the first sentence.
Oh, sorry. When you have money on which zakat is payable, be aware of when it falls due, the finest quantity, separate it from the rest, give it willingly and intend it to be solely for the sake of God.
Alright, so give it willingly. Like in the time of Sayyidina Abu Bakr Allahumma arda anhu, this was called Ayyam al-Ridda. Ayyam al-Ridda. The days of apostasy. People, they rejected Islam. They went apostate when because the Prophet ﷺ died. Excuse me. He died and people were in doubt of what's happening in the deen and what should we do, what shouldn't we do, what can we do, what can't we do. And then about 6 false prophets came up. They said they were now prophets and a lot of turmoil came. Always when there's a change of government, except in Australia, in the rest of the world when there's a change of government, there's turmoil. In Lebanon, they haven't had a president for nearly a year and a half. In other countries, it turns into war when there's a change of government. So Australia is pretty much the exception, one of the exceptions to that. When they changed from a monarchy to a democracy in France, they killed all the royal family and everyone related to the royal family. In America, when they got rid of the monarchy, there was the Redcoats War, a war between the Americans who were, they were English anyway, and Irish and whatever else. They were descendants of the monarchs, and they wanted to have their own country, so they had a war and got rid of them. Here in Jaya, just north of Australia, they wanted to get rid of the Indonesians. They had a war. So when there's a change of government, that's the natural aspect. There's always turmoil. Some countries, Australians, don't worry mate, it should be right. We don't need to have a war, things will work out. So we don't worry about it too much. It's not such a big deal for us. So people in that time, they renounced the deen of Islam. So Ridda is the time of, the days of renunciation of the deen. And so Abu Bakr Allah, he was the Khalifa. And what did he say? He said, لَوْ مَنَعُونِ عَقَلْ. If the aqal is the thing they tie the camel's legs with. You just don't know that because you didn't grow up in the desert. But in the desert, what they do is, the camels, they're a desert animal. They live in the desert where there's sand and nothing, and they still know how to get water and they still know how to eat. So what they do is, the farmers, they tie one of its legs, either one leg to another, or normally what they do is they tie one leg like that. So they tie it from here. So that way it's only got 3 legs. So it goes, but not that far, because they're called the ships of the desert. So that aqal, that bit of rope that they used to tie around the camel, if Abu Bakr al-Anhu said that if they used to give that to the Prophet of Allah and they didn't give it to me as the Khalifa, لَقَاتَلْتَهُمْ. He would have declared war on them. Okay? And then look who stopped in his way. Sayyidina Umar. What? Declaration of war? What are you doing, Abu Bakr? These were Muslims, these could have been Muslims. And he's the most, shuja', he's the most of not the most shuja', Abu Bakr is the most courageous, but he's the most powerful and he's firm and strong in his application of the deen, fadl, and his application of the deen. So even he said to him, he said, Abu Bakr, really you're going to declare war on them? Why? How? What's going on? What made it get to this state? And then he recited the verses of the zakat. He says, وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ. And there's one. There's another one. فَإِن تَابُوا وَأَقَامُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ فَإِخْوَانُكُمْ فِي الدِّينِ. That's from Surah At-Tawbah. So like I said, there's about roughly 20-ish, more than 10, less than 20, different verses where salat and zakat are together. So he said, Abu Bakr said, whoever divides salat and zakat, then I will declare war on him. It's a declaration. And that's what he did. And so, for example, the place, alhamdulillah, where I was lucky enough to study, in Hadramaut, they sent Mu'adh bin Jabal in Yemen, and they also sent Sayyidina Ali. Sayyidina Ali went to the north, Allah anhu, karamallahu wajhu, he went to the north. And what happened when the governors and the representatives of Abu Bakr came to Hadramaut, they had the zakat money ready for it. And they wrote a letter back to Sayyidina Abu Bakr. They said, look, these people are the only people, that's it, they're straight in their deen. And what did the Prophet say? Al-imanu yamani, alayhi salatu wasalam. He said, Iman is Yemeni. Wal-hikmatu yamaniya. That wisdom is also Yemeni. So the Prophet said it, he knows those people what they're going to do. He knows what they're like. And so Abu Bakr, he made dua for them. He made dua that the awliya, they sprout forth from, like plants sprout forth. This is extra. This is just, you don't have to write this down. It's just so you get you ready to learn a bit more about zakat. Prepare you to open your mind a bit and your heart about zakat. Alright? He made dua that the awliya, not the ulama, the awliya. Abu Bakr Allah made this dua for the people of Yemen, for Hadramaut in particular, which is a valley, it's like a province, like New South Wales or Victoria or ACT or Northern Territory or whatever. It's a province in Yemen. And then he made dua that their buildings are tall, and he made dua that there's plenty of water there. And when you go there, it's a desert, there's nothing, there's plenty of water. There's a place called Shibam, mashallah, and it's, stories and stories and stories. It's 8, 9, 10 stories before, so they call it the Manhattan of Yemen. We climbed up there, it's freaky. You climbed up 8, 9 stories, and it's all made of mud and straw and animal dung. The whole thing is made of that. That's it, that's all there is. There's a few, and they're so advanced, they built bridges between like the 6th floor and the 6th floor, really. You walk across the bridge, there's a couple of logs and it's closed up so that they can travel the whole city without actually having to go into the ground. And this is from 1,000 years, 1,200 years ago, mashallah. So the zakat is foundational. It's one of the essences, it's one of the arkan, one of the essences of Islam. And one of the reasons we're in the state we're in today is because of mana' az-zakat, because people are not paying their zakat. The wealthy people are not paying their zakat. The Muslims are uneducated and ignorant about how the zakat works and how they should pay it and how it should work. So one of the things we're going to discuss today is we said the time, the who and the how. The who and the how. Alright? So these things are important for us because there's athar from the words of the Sahaba and the words of the Prophet ﷺ, they're not straight hadith. They said that Allah Azza wa Jal only made obligatory upon the wealthy people an amount of wealth that would suffice the poor people. So basically what that means is, if rich people paid their money, what would happen to poverty on earth? That's it. There'd be no poverty. There wouldn't be any poor people. If rich people paid 2.5%, which isn't very much, that's it. There's no more poor people. So us as Muslims, our belief is not that Allah makes the Africans poor because whatever. Right? We got to get this. This is part of zakat. This is part of our understanding of the world and how the world works. It's not because they're bad people or they're tribal or they're not Muslims or none of those reasons. The reasons is because there's oppression. There's financial injustice, economic injustice on the earth, whereby wealthy people do not fulfill the rights of the poor people. When in the time when the Muslims were as they were supposed to be, the person giving zakat would say, here you go, this is your haqq, this is your right upon me, to the person who was accepting it. And the person accepting it wouldn't feel bad. He'd say, this is my right upon you. That's what they would say. That's what they would. In the time of Sayyidina Umar, what happened? In Misr, there was in Egypt, there was poverty, and stealing increased. Everyone was stealing from everyone. Everyone was stealing and crime. Why should we have crime in Australia? Why should we have crime if everyone's taken care of? For example, in a society where there's supposedly economic justice. Why is there crime and selling and taking and break and enters and armed robbery and whatever else and whatever else and whatever else? So Sayyidina Umar wrote back and he said to them, if I come there to Egypt, right, and I see, and actually what he said was, all the poor people, get your knife, get your sword, go onto the street, and it's okay. Rob the rich people because they're not giving their zakat. He knew, Sayyidina Umar. He knew. Sayyidina Umar, he knew that the reason why there was increase in stealing and increase in poverty, not because Allah decided not to let the skies rain, but because people weren't paying their zakat. So what ended up happening? The rich people started hitting the streets. They don't want people coming into their houses. They don't want to be stabbed. And you need zakat, there you go. Take money, take money, take money. This happened. This is the reality. Only 25, 30 odd years after the Prophet of Allah. This is the reality. So us, in our vision of the world, we understand that the reason why these things happen is because of oppression. Allah Azza wa Jal, everyone who's born, the rizq comes with them. Actually, 50,000 years before Allah created the earth, He decided, subhanahu wa ta'ala, what every single person's sustenance and what it would be. So no one comes to the world without sustenance, except those who are going to die. The only person's sustenance is cut off is that person who's going to die. Or that's it, their time's come. They're not even allowed to breathe one more breath. Not even one more chemical reaction in their lungs to allow oxygen to work their body, their internal organs. So it's very important for us. Why is it very important, do you think? Why is it very important to know that the reason why there's this extreme poverty in certain situations and certain aspects, when there's a famine, in terms of there's a drought, that's the amr of Allah. When there's a flood, earthquake, that's the amr of Allah. But those things not being present, and people not having clean water to drink, people not having food, all these things, what's it from?
Evidence of the government system.
Right? Economic oppression, whichever way you want to put it. Okay? Why is that important for us to know as Muslims? Right, so we don't fall into it. So we understand the world we're living in. What else?
So we encourage other people to give zakat.
Okay, including us. Including us. Know that, that money that I'm going to spend on the $25, was it lunch or dinner we said? Lunch, right? Why don't I have a $10 lunch and send $15 to Pakistan to the earthquake, as an example? Right? If we don't carry that mentality, if we the khulafa Allah al-ard, we're the agents of Allah, the vicegerents of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on earth. If we don't carry that mentality, how can we expect anyone else to carry it? If we don't have that concern that, look, if alhamdulillah, I've got what I've got an AC at home and carpet and, whatever. Okay, isn't there somewhere where I can change my lifestyle a little bit to make sure that someone else has? Because I know the reason why they don't have is not because Allah is cursing that person or whatever, or Allah Azza wa Jal has rejected that person from His mercy, but it's because someone's not giving the right of the poor, whether it be zakat or sadaqah or whatever. You with me? No? Yep. Okay? So we have to hold that. And our kids, what do we teach them? We give them how much? $60, $80 now today. The kids are getting $50. So which we got $50 back in the day. If we got $5, we're happy. On Eid. What are you teaching? Khabir, hide it, save it. Don't get rid of that money, it's money. Why aren't we teaching our children that some percentage of that has to go to the people that you know about? So if we're not teaching our children that, how can we expect the generation? They might pray, they might fast, they might wear hijab, they might have beads, but if they don't have that concern, they don't bear some responsibility. Is it 8 billion people now on the earth? How many are we up to? 7? If we don't bear at least 1/7 billionth of the responsibility, and I think it's more because we're the Muslims, so it's got to be 1 out of 2 billion or 1 out of 1.5 billion or whatever it is, percentage of responsibility. Then how can we say that we're fulfilling the rights of the poor? Because the zakat, it's haqqullah, it's the right of Allah, but the people entitled are the poor people. And there's 8 different categories of people which we'll get into. So we have to carry that concern. When I'm earning my money, I'm thinking I'm going to buy those new Nike Air Maxes or that new Chanel handbag or whatever it is. Or am I thinking, look, I'll buy a somewhere in between handbag and a somewhere in between pair of sneakers, and Palestine, send some money to Palestine. I personally think that's the area we should most be sending our money to. That's the area of the greatest depression when I was there, Palestine. But that's something that we need to think about. And we need to bring our children up. We talk to our brothers and sisters and our relatives about these types of things, because the importance of it is as important as salat. قاموا الصلاة وآتوا الزكاة. قاموا الصلاة وآتوا. They established prayer and they gave the zakat. They gave. Alright, so like we said, we're going to talk about the two madhahib. If you don't follow a madhab, it's not a problem. You can pick one or the other, but pick one, don't mix the two up, because then it'll just end up confusing yourself and everybody else. Alright, so we said that's the basis of zakat. The amount, nisab, and the hawl, 1 year. Okay, the lower threshold, and the progression, or whatever you want to call it, the murur, the passing of 1 year. Okay? And now there's a difference between Abu Hanifa and Imam Shafi'i with regards to who has to pay the zakat. All right. So we'll put a line down the middle. Alright, upon who is zakat payable? Okay, so we said that it's payable in terms of the money, an amount, and a year passing. But who? What do you think?
I know in the Hanafi madhab, it's upon all Muslims who are sane.
Okay, let's start off. So the first one is all Muslims. And it's the same in Imam Shafi'i. So what that means is, if you're not a Muslim, do you pay zakat? No. That's why we have to carry that concern. We have to carry that ideology, that fikr, that it's our job to make sure that inshallah people have enough. That's what we can do. Alright? Okay, the second thing is, what did you say?
Sane.
Okay, sane, meaning not crazy. That's in Abu Hanifa. It's not the case for Imam Shafi'i, and we'll explain why in a second. What else?
I know for the Ahnaf you have to be of mature age, but in
Okay, maturity.
Shafi'i you don't have to.
Okay, and the last one? Now this is about who, when does zakat become payable on a person? Okay, so Imam Shafi'i says there's only one condition. It's a precondition to who has to pay zakat. Okay, so Imam Abu Hanifa, he says that you have to be Muslim, so does Imam Shafi'i. Okay, but Imam Abu Hanifa also says you have to be sane, you have to be mature, which means baligh, which means you've gone pubescent, post-pubescent, and you can't be a slave. Alright? So they're the conditions about, none of those, this freedom won't apply to anyone. And maturity, once you're over 14, that's it. And sane, most of us are sane most of the time. Okay? Imam Shafi'i, he says only one condition, which is Islam. Why? Because what happens to your money if you're insane?
It's managed on your behalf.
Okay? Someone manages it. So Imam Shafi'i says that because someone is managing your money, that individual who's managing your money, if you have the nisab, the lower threshold, and a year has passed, that person should take out of your cash and pay. Yep? Straightforward? Yep? Okay? What happens if you're a child? No.
I know in the Shafi'i madhab, because it's a right upon the money, not upon the child. That's
Exactly.
why they still have to pay.
Exactly. In both it's a right upon the money, but these are the differentiations between the madhahib. Alright? So what happens if you're a child and, let's say for example, your dad or mum, someone's a child, their mum and dad pass away and they've left them $1 million. Who looks after that money? Okay, somebody else will. So that's why Imam Shafi says it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you're mature or immature. If you're a child, if you're 1 year's age, 6 months old, and there's that money there, then it has to be paid because it's above the nisab, it's above the lower threshold, and the year's passed on it. And what happens if you're a slave and you've got assets, which doesn't happen anyway? Because what happens is if you're a slave, say I'm a slave and I own this building, who really owns the building?
Master.
The master. All right. So it doesn't really happen anyway. Slaves are property, so they don't really own property in that reality. And so what Imam Shafi is saying there, that the master's got to pay on that money anyway. Do you see the differentiation? Yeah? All right? That's pretty straightforward. So if you're a Shafi, you're a Muslim, and that applies to everyone anyway. All right. Now we've got to go on to the types of property. Now look, I don't want to overdo it because none of you have any cattle at home, do you? Cows, camels, nothing? Oh, all right. So I don't want to overdo it, but I just want to let you know. I just want to let you know that, look, zakat is broad. There's some things that come into it, and there's some things that don't come into it. So I want to let you know so that you know. It's part of your deen to know these things. All right? So the type of things that is zakatable. I'm not going to go into any detail, and I don't really care whether you get into it or you don't get into it. So for both of them, livestock. And this is limited to cattle, sheep, goats, camels. Okay? Why do you think it's limited to those? Just think about it. There's someone else over there.
Because you can make profit out of it.
Okay? How can you make profit out of them?
Underneath the milk.
Okay? Mainly that's the main thing. Right? If you have a llama, you can make profit out of it, but not as much. But everyone wants to eat beef, lamb, goat. Not everyone wants to eat camel, I suppose. But don't forget it's the Arab basis of these things. Okay? And camel milk, how much is a litre of camel milk? That's cheap if it's 25. I know it's about 35, 40 bucks. Alright? Goat milk, it's about $5 a litre. Sheep, I don't know if they're in there, sheep milk. But sheep cheese, like, $25 for like 200 grams. And cattle milk is just, I don't know, they'll probably stay away from it. It's just not very clean anymore. Alright, so if you've got one of these, if you've got 40 sheep, you have to give one away. 40 goats, you give one away. 5 cattle, you give 1 sheep away. It's a bit complex. Don't worry about it. Okay, unless you're a primary producer, just know that there's 4 types of livestock that you have to give zakat away on. Okay, then you got, this is both Abu Hanifa and Shafi. Then you got food crops. Okay, so food crops, basically, it's what they call staple foods. Who knows what a staple food is?
Isn't it like wheat?
Yeah, it is like wheat. What's the definition? Who can define it better? It's exactly wheat. So staple is the base food in the community. So if you go to Indonesia, what's their base food?
Rice.
Rice. Okay? If you go to Lebanon, what's their base food? What is it? Shish barok. Bread. Okay? Bread. If you go to India, what's their base? Which is lentils. Okay? But their base thing is lentils. So these things, adis, hummus, these types of things, chickpeas, okay, all the bases, then these things, they're zakatable. So it's staple crops, and what else? Grapes and dates. Alright? Because dates we use as a currency as well. So all the staples, they can be, a lot of countries, if you look at their history, they used to use those things to buy and sell. Alright? Because why are they zakatable? Because they're so important. Without those foods, people can't live. Imagine if it was zakat on persimmons or mangoes. Unless you're probably from the subcontinent. You know, who knows what a persimmon is? Yeah, like those, you know? Not many. Or passion fruit. So everyone knows passion fruit, don't you? Imagine if it's zakat on passion fruit. Be like, don't worry about it. If we're going to have zakat on it, we won't produce it. There's no point. But if it's a staple, and it can also be made into currency, okay? And if you do your research or if you're studying that area, you'll find that at some stage during history that a country rice was used for, you know, to buy and sell. Okay? Food crops. So you know about gold and silver? We don't have to go into it, do we? We know it already. Did it from last week. There's, it's called rikaz. I don't know how to. I think I can explain it last time.
Measure from the
Alright, so pre-Islamic treasure troves. So in other words, in the time of Jahiliyyah, how do you think people used to keep their money back in the day? No? They'd hide it. There's no like Westpac or Commonwealth Bank. Bury it. Or put it in the cave or do something like that. So what happened was people would die, people would forget about it, people, whatever would happen, storm would come and the stuff would wash away. So if you ever dig up treasure, gold, silver, that's in the Shafi'iyah, Abu Hanifa, gold, silver, anything of value, diamonds, rubies, sapphires, and Abu Hanifa, if you ever find one of these and it was buried or like, you know, pirate treasure or whatever before pre-Islamic times, then you have to pay 20% on it. But don't really worry about it. Just so that you know, like I said, these are just so that you know. So that
Is that every year, 20%?
no, just the first time. As soon as you dig it out, 20%. Okay, metallic. Mining products. Okay, so these are a little bit different, the rules, but don't sweat it, don't worry about it. So in other words, if you mine and you pull out, in the Shafi'iyah, gold and silver only. So none of you have got open cut mines anywhere, shares in Rio Tinto, or whatever it is. Alright? So if you don't own an open cut mine, you don't have to worry about it, or any type of mine. But in the Shafi'iyah, it's only gold and silver, and Abu Hanifa, it's iron ore, platinum, whatever's valuable. Okay? Whatever metals that come out of the ground that are valuable, you pay zakat as soon as you pull them out of the ground.
So let's say you have 1,000 shares in Rio
No, I was joking around. If you have 1,000 shares in Rio Tinto, whatever your dividend is,
Yeah.
you add it to your wealth, your personal wealth, and that's it. Because that's the last one I'm going to come to, which I'm going to spend a bit more time on. That's it. Alright? Cool? You want to get rid of all this?
The Shafi'i gold, silver only. And
This one's gold and silver. Only Abu Hanifa, anything metallic.
Is it still 20%?
No?
Is it still 20%?
This one, yeah, it's 2.5%. No, this one's 2.5% as soon as it comes out of the ground. As soon as it comes out of the ground, pay for it. Alright, so I'm going to spend a bit of time on one other one because it might be relevant to us. It might be relevant to you, if not now, sometime in the future, or whatever it is. It's called stock in trade plus plant and equipment. Alright, so this is if you have your own business. Let's say, in other words, anything, so it's just any type of commerce. I know they're a bit technical words, but if you have your own business in any way, shape or form, let's say you've got a corner shop. Okay? So what you have to do is, what do you have in your corner shop? You know, sweets and biscuits and whatever else, and I don't know, it's tobacco, shovel you don't, but a lot of people do. Whatever it is. So you've got to add up the total value of that. Total market value. And your stock in trade. Your plant, okay, your plant is things, your cash register, okay, whatever it might be. Plant is more than the cash register. Plant is more things that are attached to the building. So let's say your shelving, it could be attached to the building, okay, and your equipment. You got to add up the market value of all those things on top of whatever money you have. Okay, so let's say, for example, you're a photographer, wedding photographer, and your camera costs 10 grand, and the stand or whatever, or now they hook things up to themselves or whatever. You got 5 cameras and whatever else, okay, and then your editing things cost whatever it is. Okay, you got to add all that stuff up every year. Okay, so if you're an accountant and you've got a computer and your computer software costs you 5 grand a year, 10 grand a year, and your office fit out, your couches, whatever, you got to add all those things up, right? And then pay for them. Your computer, did I say that already? Your printer, scanner, whatever else you do to make your business. Okay, what if I'm an accountant and I've got a car and I go to work and I come home from work and I use it on trips and then I use it for family? Do I have to pay zakat? Is that plant and equipment or is it stock in trade? No, okay? Only if I'm a delivery driver. I've got a delivery driving business. And the car, I only use it for delivery driving or the truck or whatever. Yeah? You with me? Or a taxi. I've got a taxi. Okay? Yes, because the business is based on transportation.
What about tools?
Tools, that's what? Equipment. So if you're a sparky, and then, what do they call electrician, if you're an electrician, you're a plumber and you've got a van, okay? So don't forget it's the market value. So you bought your car yesterday for $30,000, today it's worth 25. Next year it'll be worth 20. Okay, so that's how you do it, on the market value. No.
Isn't it if you use the tools and stuff, you don't have to pay?
No, you have to.
There's no
Anything to do with tijara. This is tijara, commerce. Okay? That's if you're whatever you're using, okay, let's say you got a massive sign, a billboard that you've bought, and it costs $50,000. That's it. It's part of your business. Whatever's directly related to your business.
You have to pay it every year or just that one?
No, every year. So let's say, for example, you got a business. Let's say you've got one of those stalls at Flemington Markets, okay, one of those little bodgy stalls, and all you've got in there is, and we're going to use the gold standard, you've got $2,000 worth of stock in trade, okay, and plant equipment. And then you've got $2,000 worth of cash, and 1 year's passed. Do you pay zakat? Why? Yes or no? Who says yes? Who says no? So who says I don't know? Alright? So this is cash. This is commerce.
You have to add them together.
Yeah, of course you do. Of course you do. Because they're separate categories. Right? So if you have 40 sheep, you have to chuck that in too. Okay, but we're not talking about sheep because you just get complicated. Camels and sheep.
Okay, so you do one separate. You don't do one separate for, let's just say, the money you have, and then one separate for
Add
the
it
business. Yeah, add them together. Add them together.
Yeah. Okay, so that's 4,000, 4K, which is above the lower threshold.
What if for example, Chris asked questions. Let's just say you've got a lot of inventory, like a lot of stock, but you don't have cash. How do you pay the zakat on it?
So that then still it would go to that. Like if you can't work it out, you have to wait till you get some money and pay it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like like they saw that in the old days in the western United States, there used to be a thing called horse broke or camel broke. I'm sure it happened in the, I don't know, but I know in the history of the United States that's what happened. So someone would have 3,000 horses because they had a big land and plenty of horses, and the horses were constantly breeding, but they had no money. And the value of horses was so low because this bloke had it, and this bloke had it, and that bloke had it, and that bloke had it, and that bloke had it. In other words, everyone had it. Their horse broke. They got heaps of horses, but they got no money. So that's the type of thing that a person be involved in. So when you have the money, then you've got to pay it out. You've got to work it out when the 1 year passes, and then as soon as you get enough money, pay it out. All right? So this one's important. Commerce. So this means if you're the CEO of IBM, right, and you earn whatever you earn, on the side, you sell used computers. I don't know why you would, but in case that's the case, right? And it's only you do it once a month, just for fun or whatever. You got some idea you like to fix them up. It relaxes you, unstresses you, de-stresses you. Okay, and you've got $10,000 worth of old junky computers. That's got to be counted, even if it's a minor income, right? Even if it's 1% of your income, where you spend 1 hour a year on it, it doesn't matter. If you're involved in any sort of commerce, outside or inside, if it's part of your main profession, okay, and if it's something you do on the side, you sell car parts, you sell things on eBay, whatever it is, hijabs on eBay or whatever, okay, siwaks, that's part of it. So that's why I left it on its own, because it's important to know what's going on. Okay, so if you use your iPad, that's pretty much your exclusive thing for your eBay account. That's part of your equipment. Yep.
Even if you use it for games and stuff like that?
Yeah, in other words, if you bought it for work and then you also use it for games, but the main purpose you got it for is for work, then it's part of your equipment.
To make money on.
Yes, commerce, to make money, trade. Alright? Yep. Sure? Alright. So I'm going to get rid of all this.
Chef,
All right.
I'm sorry, that's
No,
the
yeah,
same,
it's all right.
that's the same across Canada, yeah, like both of them?
Yeah, there was a couple of differences, but for trade and commerce, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, trade and commerce, it's the same thing. There's no difference between these two anyway. All right. Now, the most important part of it, or one of the most important parts of it, is who does the money go to? There's a bit of a difference. Okay, it's in Surah At-Tawbah, I think it's 9, and verse 60. إنما الصدقات للفقراء. There's 8 different types, 8 different categories, 8 recipients or 8 categories of zakat recipients. Okay, it's 9:60. So it's chapter 9, verse 60, Surah At-Tawbah. Okay, Surah At-Tawbah. So these you have to know as well. Because if you got the money and you picked it up and you're there and you like, yeah, alhamdulillah, I'm ready to go, and then now what? Got all my money, what should I do with it? Okay, the first one is Al-Fuqara. Al-Fuqara, sorry about that. So, these are the poverty-stricken. Okay, in Imam Shafi'i, he says that they have less than half of their daily needs. Those who are poverty-stricken. So in other words, let's use 2013 terms. In other words, they need $500 a week to survive, and they've only got 200, less than 250. And Imam Shafi'i, they are the poverty-stricken. There's a better word for it. I looked it up. It's a great word, actually. It's nice to learn new words. It's like this: Penury. Penury. So that means extreme poverty. It also means extremely tight. But there's two kind of Penury. All right, these are these poverty-stricken people. They have half or less than half of their daily needs, or their, let's just say needs. Don't worry about the word daily. So they need $500 a week. They got 250 or less. Okay, and then we've got the needy. There's a difference between the two. So the needy, they have more than half, but less than their needs. You with me or you're not with me? If you're not, tell me so we can be together. No? Alright? So, first person, al-fuqara, إنما الصدقات للفقراء والمساكين. These are two categories of people who are entitled to your money, the zakat money. The first one is poverty stricken. In other words, their situation is so bad, they need $500 to survive. We're talking about Australian standards here. They need $500 to survive, they've got less than $250. So they're in the category of what? Okay, fuqara, faqir, faqir. The next one is miskin. They need $500 to survive, they've got $300. Right? So they're not as bad as the poverty stricken, but they still haven't got what they need. Sure? That's it. Simple as that. In Abu Hanifa, it's reversed. The fuqara are this one, and the masakin are this one. That's it. No need to sweat it really. Okay? So, this is a big issue again. Remember we spoke about 2 weeks ago, our attitude towards money. We get money from the government and we do all these things and we reward and we whatever. We go and get riba and then we think we're good over it. It's like eating the leg of the roadkill of the kangaroo. Okay? So if you're in need, you can go and eat a dead animal. It's halal for you. It could be even wajib for you. It could be even an obligation. If you're going to die from starvation and there's a dead animal, you have to go eat it. Or khanzir when I was a pig, you have to go eat it. But you don't say, oh, yesterday I went and I feasted on a dead animal. No one would ever do that. But how can we do when it comes to, oh, I've got a house in wherever, Vaucluse, or how'd you get it? Interest. Doesn't matter, it's Vaucluse. The car, it's on interest. It doesn't make sense. So, part of the philosophy in terms of dealing with the fuqara, a part of the philosophy in terms of dealing with the masakin is that same attitude. The same attitude that, that's it, I can get money from the government, I'm entitled to have money from the government, but they don't fit either of these two categories. And one of them is said that, the Prophet ﷺ said that it's haram for a person who is capable, who's able and powerful to get money of zakat. It's haram. What do you think the what do you call it is? The Centrelink and all that stuff. The government doesn't collect it and take it, they take it and give it to categories of people they've got in their rulings. And then what do? We go reward it and we work and we're able. Don't think Allah likes those people. Actually, Allah doesn't. Another hadith is the most hated person to Allah Azza wa Jal is the one who's not in need, poverty stricken, and they're a beggar. And that's what they're doing. They're begging. Okay, so that's one aspect of it. On the other side, the other aspect is, look how Allah Azza wa Jal and the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ deals with people. Okay? Who's entitled to be in one of these categories? Who's entitled? Someone who's an invalid. In other words, they're never going to work for the rest of their life. Guess what happens to them in the Sharia? And this is our understanding that we should have about the zakat. They should be looked after for the length of their life. So what does that mean? That a property should be bought, a business should be invested in, shares should be purchased, whatever the case might be. So this person never has to worry about money. It's not just, like us, this is what we think, this is what we've been trained to think. Oh yeah, I've got a bit of money, I'll give zakat, $50. Don't worry, the poor people organise themselves with the $50. That's not zakat. That's not zakat. Zakat is economic justice. It's to alleviate the impoverishment of people. I think it was the Prophet of Allah, was it Sayyidina Ali? I can't remember who said it. He said that if poverty was a person, I would have killed it. If poverty was a person, I would have killed him. Because let's think about it for a moment. Alhamdulillah, we can fast, we can pray, we can do all these things because we're not chasing our food. Imagine if every day you had to worry about your food. Every day you had to worry about where you're going to live, where you're going to sleep, how you're going to feed your kids. Imagine. You're not going to pray. What pray? Don't even think about praying. You won't even think about praying. You think about how you're going to eat and how you're going to put a roof over your children's heads and your own head if you've got children. Okay? So, an invalid is taken care of for their whole life. It's not just, oh, we just chuck them on the... Even in the time of Sayyidina Umar Allah marda anhu, there was an old man, ajuz, and that's old people as well. So invalid and pensioners, as we call them, ajuz. There was an old man, and Sayyidina Umar, he saw him. And he said to someone, who's this guy? He goes, don't worry, he's a dhimmi. He's a non-Muslim who lives amongst the Muslims. He said, get the money from Baytul Mal. Get the money from the public treasury and give him the money so he can live. Because he's been paying the jizya all his life. He's been paying the non-Muslim arms or whatever you call it, tax, whatever it's called, his whole life. Even for the non-Muslim. Even for the non-Muslim. Okay? So that's the invalid, the one who's incapable of working, insane, whatever the story is. How about this one? Let's say, and this is the case today, you're a doctor, you're a pharmacist, you're an accountant, you're whatever, and you don't have enough money to purchase the products you need, the business, the plant and equipment, going back to the other one. Guess what? You're entitled to the money from the zakat. You're entitled to it. And it should be, look at this condition under Shafi'iyah, is that it should be in accordance with your standard. So if let's say you're a pharmacist, you need a pharmacy, I don't know, it probably costs a lot of money and you need regulations and whatever else. The zakat wouldn't give you enough money just to go and open up a bookshop, for example. No, it has to be in accordance, commensurate with your skills, abilities, and your standing. And you're standing, how about this one? You're standing in the community. Okay? So how many issues would that alleviate? How many issues would that alleviate? So it's the good old give a man a fish, feed him for a day. Teach a man how to fish, feed him his whole life. That's what zakat's supposed to be. Okay? That's what it's supposed to be. And the money doesn't belong to the government. The money belongs to those 8 different categories. We're only going to do these ones now. Next week we'll continue, inshallah. Okay? So what the government would do, in other words, the public treasury, the Baytul Mal, what's it called here? The Treasury Department, isn't that what it's called? Okay, they hold the money, but they give it out to the people. They don't use it. They make sure the right people who are entitled to it get it. That way, now, if we give this guy his pharmacy, or give this lady her pharmacy, what's she going to do? She's going to work, and she's going to end up paying zakat. That's economic justice. It's not every day they're going to come and beg, and say, oh, I need money, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. No, it's to alleviate their impoverishment. That's where the justice is. If the money doesn't alleviate impoverishment, then unfortunately it's not just. And look, that's one of the big things we should be pushing and talking about as Muslims. Imagine if people heard about this, instead of hearing about ISIS and other nut jobs around. Right? They'd be thinking, oh, wow, there's something to this Islam. But we don't even understand it. We don't even practice it. So their example is, oh, look what's happening in this country, this Muslim country. Look what's happening. It's true. It's true. Rather than having a gold-plated, diamond-studded car, do something for the people. And when you go there, you see it. You go to the Jazira al-Arabiya, you go to the cities, everyone's wealthy. You go to the country, people don't even know how to make wudu. They're so backwards. They don't know how to do anything. They're living in Saudi Arabia. They don't even know how to make wudu. They don't know nothing about nothing. They're fully ignorant. So, economic justice is the basis of what zakat's about. And if economic justice is established on the earth, then it's easier for people to follow the deen. Easier for people to do the right thing. Less enslavement. Because economic injustice is slavery. And people start to say that now. These liberal thinkers, they're starting to say that someone to have a mortgage for 35 years, that's slavery. And that's exactly what it is. Mort, that's where the word comes from. Mort is a Latin word for death, and gage is a Latin word to bind. So mortgage means bind till death, or death bound. It's not a secret, it's out there for people to see. So people are saying that once they've got that overview economically, then they can tell you whatever they want. And that's what the United Nations and the World Health Organization and the World Bank do in the Muslim countries. They come in and say, oh, you owe us all these. They gave them the money. They lent them the money on compound interest in the first place, billions of dollars in the first place. And then this is what they do. They lend them the money, right? There's a country, this is our country here, this room. We've got natural resources, but we don't know how to extract them. We don't know how to use them. We don't know how to make manufacturing. So what they say is, look, here's $10 billion back in the day, the 50s and 60s. Here's $10 billion, extract the stuff. You're like, yeah, no worries. But we don't know how to. Oh, don't worry, we've got this company, and we've got these people with these machinery. So they come in, outsiders come in, we pay them from our $10 billion, whatever we pay them, they set up, they extract, what do? As the people of this land, we're the labourers. We drive the trucks, we might have an engineer or two here and there, but we don't have nothing to do with the hierarchy, the management, all these types of things, the executive of power. Then we end up paying these big companies all this money to come and extract. They extract it, they take 60, 70, 80% of the profits, and what are we left with? A massive compound debt. The money we earn is not enough, there's corruption, blah, blah, blah on the top. That's what happened in Africa, these countries. That's what's going on. The richest continent on earth is Africa, yet it's the poorest. How does that make sense? How's that just? How's that fair? They don't even have clean water when Allah Azza wa Jal. And if we don't have concern for the Muslims and non-Muslims, how can we say that we're people of zakat? How can we say we're people of arkan al-Islam, of the foundations and the essences when Allah Azza wa Jal of Islam? We can't say that. And we should be the ones out there changing it. Us, what is that? Doctors Without Borders, and all these organisations that are there trying to make a difference. Where are we? Alhamdulillah, the Turks are really good in it. They're miles ahead. Others, not so much so. So we have to have this understanding of what money does and how money works. Not only I get money, I take it to the shop and I get an ice cream or a pair of shoes or a handbag or a hat or whatever it is. But what the real use of money is, the big picture issue of money. How money is supposed to be used, and how with whatever limited expertise or experience that I might have, that I inshallah contribute to bringing that economic justice inshallah. Any questions about any of those things? All good? Yes,
So let's just say someone, like in Australia obviously, owns a house, and well, they own that house, but they don't have like money, like they're not rich or anything like that. They're living week to week, whatever they get from Sandy, whatever is bare minimum. It's like not what's it called? Do they fall under any of these categories?
What do you guys reckon? What do you think? Have a look at it. What's their needs? What are their needs?
Food.
And what else? Electricity, medicine, education for their kids, clothes, car. So what do you reckon? Of course.
So you can give
No one's expected to sell a capital investment, in other words, a fixed investment, fixed property, real property, just to live. It doesn't make sense. Now let's say they go sell that. Let's say, for example, we say, and that's how dumb we are. That's how dumb we are. We were involved in this group that was sending money to Lebanon and whatever, and then I happened to visiting Lebanon at the time, and I saw the guy's responsible. I said, mate, there's a guy, he's got 2 disabled kids, and he's disabled himself. It's only his wife, and she goes around and cleans people's houses, and their money is, they've got heaps of land, they should sell their land. I mean, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Their land, they got fruit trees on it. When the season comes, they sell it and they make money. The rest of the time, they don't have enough money. So imagine we made people sell, that person we're talking about, sell his house. What's going to happen next year? Then he's going to need a house and food and clothes and of course not. Of course not. There's the only time that a person won't be eligible for zakat when they've got properties if they're able to work and they're not working. So all these people, these Muslims that are on the Centrelink and they're able to work, they've been 30, they're called chronic social security dependents. They're chronic. It's a sickness. It's an illness. It's a disease. These are the people in Al Bilad that are not entitled to zakat. And they work, don't worry. Abadoy, Antor, mashallah. But on the Centrelink, sorry, no speak the English. What do you mean no speak English? But when he goes to buy and sell at Flemington markets on a Saturday, he's like a what do you call it, an international negotiator, arms dealer or something. What's going on? What's going on? Doesn't make sense. Is that how you want to be as a man? Women, all right, one thing. If you're legit, you're sick, you're ill, you lost your job, that's your haqq. That's your right. But I'm not talking about the legitimate ones. I'm talking about the illegitimate ones. And then watch their kids. How many times, Sheikh, my kids, why? Your money's haram. You're feeding your children haram, bro. The clothes on their back are haram. And there's a straight hadith about it. The man is crying, Ya Allah, Ya Allah. But Allah doesn't answer him. Why? His food is haram. His markab, his animal is haram. His clothes are haram. The whole thing's haram head to toe. It's Allah with someone who's fully haram. So that's the mentality we've got. And then there's all takabbur to go with it as well. What do you mean? I got a house. I got this. Habib, where'd you get it from? From begging. That's what it is. Every 2 weeks they fill in the form, you're begging. Unless you deserve it. If you're entitled to it, that's your haq. And whatever else comes along with it. So the mentality has to change. If we don't change that mentality, and where does the money come from? It doesn't come from, what's his face now, Malcolm Turnbull's pocket. He doesn't have like a safe at home where he gives out the money. It comes from you and me. It comes from other taxpayers who pay the money. The same as zakat. No, there's no difference except the first condition is there's no Muslim there. But what about us? How about the guys? Oh yeah, I bet on a dole for that many. They go to Hajj on the dole. They go to Hajj, and where'd the money come from? The dole. We should call him Hajj Malcolm Turnbull then, and Hajj Tony Abbott, and Hajj, what is it, Andrew Rudd or whatever his name was, Kevin Rudd. What do you mean he went to Hajj or from the dole? That amount of money should be enough what? To meet their needs. Look at the two categories there. Their needs. Their basic living. That's it. Anything extra, sorry mate, it's haram. You should be giving it back as well. Alright? So any questions about any of those things? Any more questions? Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin wa salatu wa salam ala khayrina wa alihi wa sallam. Ya Rahman Rahim alhamdulillah bi rahmatika wa wasi'a yuslimuna bil hayati ba'd al-mat ya muqallib al-qulub thabbit qulubana ala dinika wa ala ta'atika. Ya Rahman Rahim as'aluka an taj'alna min alladhina yastami'una al-qawla wa yattabi'una ahsana. Ya Rahman Rahim أسألك أن تعلمنا بما ننفعنا بما علمتنا يا أرحم الراحمين. Ya Allah, forgive us and forgive our sins and forgive the sins of our fathers and our mothers and our brothers and our sisters, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, we ask you to return the Muslims to their deen in the most proper way. We ask you to make us the forebearers, Ya Arham Ar-Rahimin, of the economic justice, Ya Allah, in this land and the lands around us, Ya Allah. We ask you to give us some concern for those people, Ya Arham Ar-Rahimin, that are poverty-stricken throughout the world, and those people that are needy throughout the world, Ya Allah. And we ask you, Ya Arham Ar-Rahimin, to make our feet firm on La ilaha illallah, on the path of La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah, bi khayrin wa lutfin wa afiyah, wa la hadrat al-Nabi, Sir al-Fatiha.